la idea era que fuera presencial y al estar online es más complicado seguir, es más complicado también. Bueno, nosotros habíamos pensado otro formato que era como más de preguntarle y tal, pero estando desde allí, pero bueno, es un imprevisto que no habíamos podido, que no hemos podido evitar. Y así que bueno, agradeceros porque sabemos que el formato de 1 hora y media en la pantalla es un poco duro. Pero bueno, también luego antes me di cuenta de que se me había olvidado, pero para las personas del curso, como vamos a estar 4 semanas online intercambiando opiniones y tal, va a ser muy difícil acordarnos, pero sí que quería hacer así súper rapidito una ronda de, si os parece, de cómo nos llamamos simplemente, porque así igual luego en los foros y tal, no de todas, pero igual de algunas nos acordamos y nos ponemos cara. Entonces, no sé si hace falta micrófono o si os levantan, o igual os vais pasando el micrófono, os doy uno, creo que había otro. Y luego le pasamos la palabra. Sí.
Bueno, pues yo soy Nekane González y soy estudiante de tercero de periodismo.
Yo soy Naroa Bravo y soy estudiante de tercero de periodismo.
Mi nombre es Álvaro y soy estudiante del máster en estudios internacionales y soy de Colombia.
Mi nombre es Marta y soy estudiante en el máster de estudios internacionales.
Yo soy Gorka de Paz con Dignidad.
Yo soy Enrico de Bellas Artes.
Karen del máster de estudios internacionales.
Yo soy Anne y estudio primero de traducción.
Yo soy Gorka y estudio ingeniería industrial.
Yo soy Paula y estudio trabajo social.
Hola, soy Chema, jubilado y estudiante de Bellas Artes de segundo.
Peli, máster de estudios internacionales.
Carme, de máster de estudios internacionales.
Buenas, me llamo María y soy del máster de estudios internacionales.
Me llamo Alae y estudio primero de traducción.
Soy Amira y estudio traducción.
César, máster en estudios internacionales.
Nuria, del máster de estudios internacionales.
Juan, del máster de estudios internacionales.
Soy Yana, estudio un doble grado de AD y Derecho.
Yo soy Aidan y soy del máster en estudios internacionales. Aidan.
Yo soy Amina del máster en estudios internacionales.
Yo soy Yuma y estudio Bellas Artes.
Yo soy Jaime y estudio, máster en Relaciones Internacionales.
Soy Arachi y estudio el máster en estudios internacionales.
Soy Yune y estudio nutrición.
Soy Safa y estudio periodismo.
Soy Daniela y estudio un máster en Relaciones Internacionales.
Suriñe, máster en estudios internacionales. Isabel, máster en estudios internacionales.
Aitor, máster en estudios internacionales.
Eqtaish, estudios en relaciones internacionales.
Daniel, estudios internacionales.
Ana, estudios internacionales.
Hola, yo soy Irene y soy doctoranda del programa de lingüística.
Kaixo, yo soy María y estudié magisterio y hice el doctorado en educación también.
Ayoub from Palestine, work in Defense for Children International.
Soy Qasim de Palestina, tengo una doctorado en Derecho, ahora estoy a hacer a postdoc en university.
Vale, gracias. Pues les dejamos la palabra, que al final les ha dejado menos tiempo de lo previsto, a nuestros compañeros y en particular él, Ayoub Eqtaish, no sé si lo he dicho bien. Y bueno, te dejo la palabra y muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you for your presence and for your interest in the issue of Palestinian children's rights and in the Palestinian issue in general. So today I'll try, after Jamal, historical and political and legal presentation, I'll try to avoid legal jargon and to speak about the implications of the Israeli colonial settler enterprise on the lives of Palestinian people, among them Palestinian children. So I'll start by speaking about the organization that I work for, which is Defense for Children International, and how the organization is protecting the life of Palestinian children in the occupied Palestinian territories. So Defense for Children International, it's a child rights organization affiliated to international movement. Around the world, there are about 35 sections, and the relation between these sections is coordination relations. So each section develops its programs, activities according to the particular needs in each community. So some sections work on the issue of child labor, street children, child pornography. In Palestine, we are working through too many programs. One, to concentrate on the situation of Palestinian children in relation to the violation of the Israeli army to their rights, and the other one in relation to the rights of Palestinian children under the jurisdiction of the Palestinian Authority. The organization established in the year 1991, and the main purpose of the organization was to defend Palestinian children before the Israeli military legal system. And this was during the first Intifada, where there were many children are arrested and prosecuted by the Israeli military in the Israeli military legal system. So the mission of the organization is to defend Palestinian children, to document the violation to their rights, and to advocate for their rights on the international level. And also we are working in order to empower children, because we believe that the best way to protect children is to empower them to defend themselves by themselves. So we work on the Israeli level and the Palestinian level, and we believe that children's rights should be protected regardless of the perpetrator of the violations to their rights, whether it's the Israeli authorities or the Palestinian authorities. So we work in order to advocate for the rights of Palestinian children on all levels. So we submit reports to international bodies like UN monitoring bodies like the Committee on the Rights of the Child and the Committee Against Torture and all human rights monitoring bodies in order to advocate to uphold the rights of Palestinian children. So whenever the Israeli authority submit its report, because Israel is a state party to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, but when it comes to the right of Palestinian children, Israel argues that human rights conventions are not applicable to people who are living under occupation. What applicable is the international humanitarian law, but when Israel is argued about its obligation under international humanitarian law, Israel argues that not all aspects of international humanitarian law are applicable, but not the legal aspect, but the humanitarian aspect without elaborating or clarifying what the humanitarian aspects are. So Defense for Children International, it's a Palestinian independent NGO. We work for more than 30 years to defend investigate and expose the Israeli violation to Palestinian children's rights. And as I said, that we started providing legal assistance for Palestinian children in front of the Israeli military legal system. But after 10 years of working in the Israeli military legal system, we came to the conclusion that it's almost impossible to reach justice through the Israeli military legal system, because the whole system is not designed in order to bring justice, but it was designed in order to suppress and control people who are living under the Israeli military legal system. So after providing services for 10 years, we started to interview children and collect evidence about how Palestinian children are treated in the Israeli military legal system, and start our advocacy on the international level in order to change the system. So we regard ourselves that we are defending Palestinian children as individuals through the legal services that we are providing for them, and defending them as a group through the advocacy that we are doing on the international level, because we believe that it's the responsibility of the international community to put pressure in Israel to abide to its obligation under international human rights conventions. And as you know, Israel is a state party to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the human rights conventions establish different relations among these relations, the relation between the countries. So whenever any country who is part of this convention do not live up to its obligation, the other countries must intervene in order to impose this country to implement its obligation under that convention. But unfortunately, the mandate of almost countries do not implement this obligation, and they sacrifice their human rights and legal obligation in order to maintain their political and legal relation with each other. And the problem with the mandate of the committee that monitor the implementation of these conventions, so these committees are teethless, so they do not have at their disposal any means in order to impose on those countries how to implement their obligations. Today I'll speak about how Israel is targeting the Palestinian children who are living in the occupied Palestinian territories. Almost Israel is violating all rights of Palestinian people, among them children who are living in the occupied Palestinian territories, but whether their right to life or their right to liberty, education, healthcare, adequate standard of living, their civil and political rights, but as an organization or a small organization, we do not have the capacity to document all the Israeli violation to Palestinian children's rights in the occupied Palestinian territory. So we concentrate on specific rights, such as the right to life, and under this category, we document child fatalities, child injuries, using children as human shields, and settler violence, as well as the right to liberty. And under this right, we cover the ill treatment and torturing of Palestinian children who are arrested by the Israeli military, and the lack of fair trial guarantees and the arbitrary detention of Palestinian children by the Israeli authorities. So today I'll speak more about the issue of child detention in the Israeli prisons and about the right to life, because these are the most common violation to Palestinian children's rights in the occupied Palestinian territories. So despite the fact that children have legal protection and safeguards under international human rights conventions, but Israel do not respect these protections. So, for example, under the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the convention spoke about the best interest of the child, it spoke about the non-discrimination, and all the safeguards of children who come into conflict with the law, but when it comes to Palestinian children, Israel do not respect all of these obligations. Here it's important to note that in Israel-Palestine there are two legal systems that are operating in the same geographical jurisdiction, which is the Israeli military legal system and the Israeli civilian system. The Israeli military legal system, it's applicable to Palestinians who are living in the West Bank, whereas the Israeli civilian system, it's applicable to Israeli citizens who are living inside Israel and to Israeli settlers who are living in the West Bank. So despite the fact that the Israeli military legal system is applicable to, should be applicable to Israeli settlers because they are living in the same geographical jurisdiction where the Israeli military legal system is applicable, but they are tried under the Israeli civilian system, not under the Israeli military legal system. And there are so much differences between the two systems in favor of the Israeli civilian system, because the Israeli civilian system designed to deal with Israeli children, while the Israeli military legal system is designed to deal with Palestinian children from the occupied territories. So what identifies the system which is applicable to you is the nationality of the child. So if the child is an Israeli child, he will be tried under the Israeli civilian system, regardless where he is living. And if the child is a Palestinian child, he will be tried under the Israeli military legal system for children from East Jerusalem, despite the fact that East Jerusalem is part of the occupied Palestinian territories. But because Israel annexed East Jerusalem, so they are treating Palestinian people who are living in East Jerusalem as permanent residents. So they are trying them before the Israeli civilian system. So in theory, Palestinian children from East Jerusalem enjoy all the rights that have been enshrined in the Israeli civilian system, but in practice, they are treated like their counterparts from the West Bank. This map shows the Israeli military detention system, which consists of a network of Israeli prisons, detention centers, military courts spread all over the occupied Palestinian territories and inside Israel. So Palestinian children usually are arrested during night hours when the Israeli troops invaded the area where Palestinian children are living. And usually the Israeli military forced their way into the child family house. And when they invaded the house of the child, they asked all family members to assemble in one place And after that, they examine the IDs of all inhabitants of the house, and they identify the child that they want to arrest. After that, they arrest the child without informing the child or his family about the reason for the arrest or to where the child will be taken. In many cases, the Israeli military may start beating the child in front of other family members. And after that, they blindfold the child, handcuffed him, and take him to one of the military jeeps that waiting outside in order to transport the child to one of the detention and interrogation center. So during the trip between the child family home and the interrogation center, the child exposed to different types of intimidation, beating during the trip in order to prepare the child for the interrogation inside the detention and interrogation center. So the main purpose of the interrogation is to extract confessions from Palestinian children who are interrogated by the Israeli military. Usually, the Israeli interrogators use different types of ill treatment and torture, and the ill treatment and torture could be in the form of physical violence or psychological violence. The forms of physical violence that the Israeli authorities used against Palestinian children could be in the form of kicking, beating, forcing them to sit or stand on a stressful position. The psychological pressure against Palestinian children could be in the form of intimidation, threatening, or placing them in solitary confinement. And solitary confinement, it's a cell that measures 1 by 2 meters and without having any interaction with any human being. So the child is placed in that cell for days, and in some cases for more than 1 month without having any interaction with any human being in order to put psychological pressure on the child to give confession to the allegation against him. And during the whole process, the Israeli interrogator tried to pressure the child and convey the message to him that the only way out of this situation is to give confession to the allegation against you. And the problem that Palestinian children are totally isolated from receiving any information from any body except the Israeli interrogator. They tend to believe what the Israeli interrogator communicates to them. So they tend to believe that they will last here forever unless they give confessions to the allegation against them. So in the majority of cases, Palestinian children give confessions to the allegation against them. And here I'm not saying that all Palestinian children are whiter than driven snow. Some of them commit these offenses that they are accused of, while others do not. But regardless whether they commit these offenses or not, still they have rights, and these rights should be protected and respected. Among these rights, their right to be from ill treatment and torture, because ill treatment and torture is absolutely prohibited under all human rights conventions. There is no situation that can justify ill treating or torturing anybody, put aside a child. But ill treatment and torture is widespread, institutionalized, and systematic in the Israeli military legal system. So the majority of children ended up by giving confessions to the allegation against them, and these confessions will be used by the Israeli military court system as the primary evidence against them in order to impose sentences against them. And usually these sentences could be in the form of imprisonment sentence, a financial sentence, and conditional sentence, which means that if the children commit the offense in the future, they will receive this, activate the conditional sentence. And the majority of or all Palestinian children receive the three types of punishment at the same time. So they receive the imprisonment and financial and the conditional sentence. And the problem now after the 7th of October that Palestinian children are isolated from Palestinian children imprisoned by the Israeli military are isolated from the outside world, because now since October 2023 until now, they do not receive family visits. Lawyer visits are very restricted. There is no visits for the ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and also there is no any means of communication for Palestinian children inside Israeli prisons, whether radios, telephones, newspapers, or whatsoever. So they do not know about what's going on outside the prison walls. So Palestinian children are totally isolated from the outside world. And during the past period, the living conditions inside Israeli prisons have been deteriorated to unprecedented level, whether in terms of the way by which the Israeli guards are treating them, or in relation to how long they are allowed to go outside of their cells, or in relation to the amount of food that they are provided with by the prison authorities. So food is very limited in terms of quantity and quality. And this is very evident through the weight loss of Palestinian prisoners who spend some time inside Israeli prisons. So whenever we see any child recently released from Israeli prisons, some of them may lose more than 20 or 30 kilograms of their weight after spending just a few months inside the Israeli prisons. And last year, in March last year, we documented the first child who died inside Israeli prison, and we saw the post-mortem report and the reason for his death, and the reasons were the head injury, and medical neglect, and starvation, because the amount of food that he receives while he was inside the Israeli prisons were not enough. According to DCI information, as I mentioned, that all Palestinian children exposed to different forms of ill treatment and torture. These forms could be in the form of physical violence, blindfolded, handcuffed, possession abuse, solitary confinement, and the main purpose of using all these different forms of ill treatment and torture is to extract confessions from Palestinian children, and these confessions will be used by the military as the primary evidence against them. What we noticed during the last period, that the Israeli authorities is resorting more to what's so-called the administrative detention, which is detention orders issued by the military commander of the area without court proceedings, without charges against Palestinian children. So the military commander of the area issue an administrative detention order against a Palestinian child. Usually the administrative detention is for 6-month period, and this period could be renewed indefinitely, because before the expiration of this military order, the military commander may issue or renew the administrative detention order for another 6 months. So some children spend 2 years or more under what called administrative detention orders. And the problem with the administrative detention order that children live through uncertainty, because they do not know exactly when they will be released from the Israeli prisons. And the other thing that the lawyer can't defend them, because whenever the lawyer tries to ask about the allegations or the evidence against Palestinian child in order to challenge the administrative detention order, usually the response from the Israeli prosecution or the Israeli military court judge that these evidence are part of secret file that we can't reveal, because after the administrative detention order is issued by the military commander of the army, there is what's so-called legal revision of the administrative detention order. And usually this legal revision takes place within 8 days of issuing the administrative detention order, and the court judge can approve the administrative detention order for the same period, or can reduce the period, or can cancel the administrative detention order against the Palestinian child. As I mentioned, that Palestinian children are totally isolated from the outside world, and now we'll present a short video about the experience of a Palestinian mother after not being able to visit her child. How to do this? From there.
تخبرنا من قبل المحامي إن كانت عمر نفسيته جدا تعبانة. حكى عمر للقاضي إنه لا بيطعمونا ولا بيسقونا ولا بيحممونا، وأنا تعبان جدا، بكون تعبان، بكون مرضان، ما بيقبلوا يعالجوني. تم اعتقاله بوحشية، تقريبا 10 جنود دخلوا إلى البيت. تم تدمير المنزل تدمير كامل، قيدوا كلياتهم ونزلوه. منعونا إن نطلع عليه من الشباك نودعه أو نحكي معاه، منعونا ما خلونا. ما تم زيارته قطعيا ولا تم اتصال فيه قطعيا، ما في تواصل معه قطعيا. تم ضربه ضرب مبرح أثناء ما هو في السجن، كسروا له رجله وخضع لعملية بلاتين في ركبته، وكان مؤثر جدا 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 وضعه، وما عرفنا عنه أي تفاصيل أي إشي يعني. وطلب المحامي زيارته رفضوها، طلبت زيارة من الصليب الأحمر رفضوها اليهود. ما في أي شيء يمكننا من التواصل مع عمر. كنت دائما أبكي، دائما يعني أفوت على غرفته أفتقده، أفتقد فراشه، أفتقد أواعي ملابسه، أفتقد الأكل اللي بحبها. يعني ما في إشي سهل على الأم. طفل عمر، يعني بالعاد طفل لسه ما بالغ من العمر إنه يكون كبير أو إشي يعني. فصعب اللي شفناه، صعب يعني جدا صعب.
So far, we spoke about the situation of Palestinian child prisoners from the West Bank, but after the 7th of October, there were many children who were arrested from Gaza Strip, and their situation is severer than the situation of Palestinian children from the West Bank. During the past period, we, as an organization, succeeded to interview a group of children from Gaza Strip in order to share their experiences with us and to tell us about the ill treatment and torture that they pass through when they were arrested by the Israeli military, and about the incarceration conditions. And Palestinian children from Gaza Strip, usually when they are arrested, they are used as a human shield for some period of time. And after that, the Israeli moved them to the detention center or makeshift detention centers in Gaza Strip. And after that, they take them to Siditi Man detention center, where they are interrogated by the Israeli military. During interrogation, the Israeli authorities use severe forms of ill treatment and torture. And for example, one of the children informed us that the Israeli authorities hang him from the 4th floor after tying him to a rope from his legs and hanging them from the 4th floor. They inform us about what's so-called the disco room, which is a room where they put the Palestinian child, and after that they open a very loud music, and the child may stay there for hours. And this experience is very difficult for anybody who passed through this experience. They inform us how they convey to them misinformation about their families, and like telling the child that they raped his mother, or they killed all his family members, or so these are the types of intimidation and threatening and practices against Palestinian children from Gaza Strip who were arrested during the genocidal war against Gaza. And now the problem of many people, it's related to this missing children, because there are many children that from Gaza that their families do not know about their situation, whether they are arrested by the Israeli military or they were killed. Whenever we communicate the Israeli authorities in order to ask about their whereabouts, there is no information from the Israeli authorities. So the families of the children, they are living through uncertainty. They do not know about the whereabouts of their children, who whether they are arrested or whether they were killed. The Israeli authorities classify Palestinian children who are arrested from Gaza Strip as unlawful combatants. And this is a very strange term or legal term to classify children.
All of them.
Oh yeah, all of them. So they rarely appear before the courts. Maybe for after 6 months they may appear before a court, and they classify them as unlawful combatant. And the situation, something it's beyond imagination. The situation of Palestinian children from Gaza who are arrested by the Israeli military. The latest information that we received from the Israeli authorities, it was in relation to the number of Palestinian children in Israeli detention, was at the end of September, and at that time there were 350 Palestinian children in Israeli prisons. 42 of them are held under administrative detention orders, which is detention without charges, without court proceedings. Just I want to speak about the right to life of Palestinian children. For example, as an organization, our role is to document the Israeli violation to Palestinian children right to life. Between the year 2000 and 2023, we documented the killing of 2,300 Palestinian children in the occupied Palestinian territories, whether the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and Gaza Strip, which means that on average, every year, the Israeli military kill on average 100 Palestinian children in the occupied Palestinian territory. But since October until now, there is no accurate number about the number of Palestinian children who were killed in Gaza Strip, but all information indicate that more than 20,000 Palestinian children were killed in Gaza Strip, and this is because Israel targeted Palestinian civilians. So they targeted the civilian residential area, and this clarify the number of Palestinian children who were killed during the Israeli genocide against Gaza. During the same period in the West Bank, 225 Palestinian children were killed. So this number is not a little number, but because the killing of Palestinian children in the West Bank took place on the shadow of what's going on Gaza Strip, so people do not pay attention to the Israeli practices in the West Bank, despite the fact that there is a huge escalation in the Israeli violation to Palestinian children's rights in the West Bank.
فاز رصاصة من فكي من هون طلعت من هون.
أول ما أجتني الرصاصة براسي لما مشيت كان قدامي كله أسود.
الشادر كامل بأكمله ملان رصاص من هذاك المنزل كان يصوب على اللي كانوا قاعدين هون. هاي في كمان هون رصاصة كانت بتجي من هناك لهون. هاي في كمان هون برضو كمان رصاصة على الباب من هون. أنا كنت قاعدة هون أمام هاي الرصاصة بالضبط. فهاي الرصاصة كانت تدخل براسي بس أنا نزلت راسي. بعدين بعد ما نزلت راسي فاتت بكتفي وحدة. بعديها مرت خالي كانت قاعدة هون برضو تصوبت برصاصتين. بعد ما تصوبت توفت على المطرح، استشهدت على المطرح، يعني ما تحركت ولا إشي.
فجأة انتخيت وأجت الرصاصة في راسي بعدها ومشيت وقعدت تحت الطاولة. فأجت خالتي حملتني جوا وماما حملتني منها.
يعني من دون أي سابق إنذار خلاص بس أطلقوا علينا. بصراحة إحنا كانت نساء بيت عزاء، ليش بيطلقوا علينا ما بعرف. فمش مبين علي غير إنه بس ثمي فاتح وقاعد بنفر بس دم من هون. ما كنت عارفة إنه أنا
كان قدامي غباش ودخت كثير عشان هيك وقعت.
إحنا ضلينا بالمستشفى. أنا نيموني حوالي أسبوع بالمستشفى نايم فاقد الوعي، لأنه أنا سمي متفجر حرفياً. فكي هذا طالع لبرا هيك ولساني متفجر، فيش ما كانش فيه لسان أصلاً.
بروحش على المدرسة لأني إذا حدا دفشني ممكن تتحرك الرصاصة، وبس أركض بدوخ وبستفرغ، وأكتر من 7 دقايق طريق بالسيارة أو ماشي بستفرغ.
بحس لما يجي هوا على وجهي بصير يوجعني لأنه هون بلاتين، وبعاني كثير إنه الأكل
بتمنى إني أتشافى بسرعة وأرجع لطبيعتي العادية، أمشي، أروح على المدرسة، أروح وين ما بدي وأسوي شو ما بدي. أنا بحب أحكي للناس ساعدونا عشان نشعر بأمان بوطننا.
So this incident took place in the West Bank, but the stories that we received from Gaza something beyond imagination. For example, we document the cases of group of children who witness the killing and the death of both of their parents, and witness the dogs while they are eating parts of their parents' bodies. So. And these are one of the stories of Palestinian children who share their experiences with us in Gaza Strip. In the West Bank, the problem that now Israel is targeting Palestinian people and Palestinian children. So, for example, before, despite the fact that Israel used to use firearms against Palestinian children, which should not be used against civilians, but after the October 2023, Israel target the firearms toward the upper parts of Palestinian people, which led to the killing of them. And after their injury, Israel do not allow paramedics and ambulances to reach them, to evacuate them, to receive health care, which led to the death of many children in the occupied Palestinian territories. And whenever Israel start any military campaign in the West Bank, they cordoned the area of Palestinian hospitals in order to delay the evacuation of injured Palestinian people to these hospitals. Okay. So, okay. 5 minutes.
بنتي بالليل بتصرخ من كتر يعني الوجع اللي هي فيه، وانا حاليا مش متوفر لها علاج ولا اكل، هذه لها اكل خاص مش متوفر نهائيا في المكان اللي احنا فيه هنا. انا بنتي هذه كان وزنها 15 كيلو، بنتي حاليا عظم، العظم بين من كتر قلة الغذاء، ما فيش غذاء إلها، فيش أكل خاص إلها هنا مش موجود نهائيا. إحنا بنعيش في هذه الخيمة زي ما أنتم شايفين، خيمتنا هذا المتواضع بنعيش فيها 6 أنفار، يعني يدوبنا نلز بعض لز. حياتنا هنا مأساوية جدا، ما فيش إمكانيات للحياة هنا بالمرة، لا كهرباء ولا مية ولا أكل ولا إشي صحي. بعدين بالنهار بتكون شوب حريقة. بنتي هذه بتتشنج من كتر السخانة والحرارة اللي في الخيمة، تتشنج. وأنا عن جد والله مش عارفة ايش أعمل معاها، تعبت كتير تعبت هنا في الخيمة هذه. أطفالنا بتموت، إحنا أطفالنا قاعدة بتموت منا، حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. يعني بدنا إحنا العالم ينظر لنا بعين الرحمة. تعبنا. شوف البنت، شوف إيش حالها صار، شوفوا كيف حالها صار، عظم البنت صارت.
So, in short, in Gaza, there is no safe place for Palestinian children. So, children are killed as a result of Israeli missiles, Israeli drones, or starvation, or the coldness. So, when we are speaking that there is no safe place, it's literally, there is no safe place in Gaza for Palestinian children. And as an organization, we documented many cases of Palestinian children who were killed inside the hospitals. So, Palestinian, for example, we documented the case of a Palestinian girl who was injured and evacuated to one of the hospitals. And while she was inside the hospital, she was killed inside the hospital while she was receiving treatment from her injury. So, because I think that we do not have time, I'll give more time for questions and comments from your side. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Bueno, gracias, Ayoub. Bueno, si alguien tiene preguntas, tengo aquí el micrófono, lo puedo llevar.
First of all, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the presentation that you made. One of my question is, have things changed? Even though we know lots of things about the cases of children dying in the streets of Gaza and the Palestinians, children that are dying at this moment. Have things changed from, for example, from 2024 till 2026?
In relation to Palestinian children from Gaza, I think that during the whole period of the Israeli aggression against Gaza, the Palestinian civilians were targeted, whether they are children or because Israel target all means of life in Gaza. So they target bakeries, they targeted water planets, fuel, they prevented the influx of humanitarian materials to Gaza, they imposed starvation, they prevented people from receiving food, they target all residential areas, shelters, so even designated safe places were targeted by the Israeli army in Gaza, and the main purpose of this was to ethnically cleanse Gaza Strip. So Israel, as Jamal mentioned, that they use many techniques in order to evacuate Palestinian people from parts of Gaza to another part in order for the first phase, and after that to evacuate them outside of the Gaza Strip. But despite all these practices from the Israelis, Israel failed in implementing the ethnic cleansing, and Palestinian people stayed in Gaza Strip. So on the 10th of December, there was a ceasefire, but after the ceasefire, Israel do not commit to its obligation under the ceasefire agreement because they do not allow humanitarian materials to enter Gaza Strip. And also they kept targeting Palestinian residential areas. So since the 10th of December 2025 until now, more than 400 Palestinian people were killed despite the fact that the ceasefire is in place. So Israel do not abide to its obligations under the ceasefire agreement. So we can't say that things were dramatically changed, but there is some change because during the wartime, on average, more than 100 Palestinian people were killed during that time.
Bueno, si no hay nadie más, yo sí le voy a hacer una pregunta, porque en estos días que hemos estado juntos, estaba comentando como antes de octubre de 2023, disparaban a los niños y las niñas, pero no disparaban directamente a matar, sino que nos contabas cómo ahora pues disparan directamente a la parte superior del cuerpo para matar. Y bueno, más allá de la reflexión de que pues, no hay nada más claro para mí que un genocidio como intentar matar a todos los niños y las niñas, quería preguntarte si eso es porque realmente hacen eso con toda la población, o si tú consideras que hay como parte de la limpieza étnica de la que hablaba también Jamal, como un proyecto de asesinar y matar a la infancia por parte del Estado de Israel.
I think the shooting to kill policy, it was before the October 2023, but the intensity of this policy, it was not like now. For example, before they may resort to shooting in the legs, and after that shooting toward the upper body parts, but now they start by shooting, and it's enough just to see a Palestinian who is standing on the main road in order to shoot toward him under the pretext that he was suspected that he will throw stones toward Israeli vehicles. So, and these practices the Israeli soldiers are resorting to because there is no accountability for these practices from the Israeli soldiers. So the Israeli soldier can do anything without any implication. So for example, during the past 10 years or more, we didn't come across any of the Israeli soldiers who held to account for killing a Palestinian child. So I think that the situation has been escalated during or after the October 2023, but this practice was before that. But open fire regulations has been relaxed to the extent that the Israeli soldier may shoot for any Palestinian body, and in many cases they shot against Israeli settlers because they thought that those are Palestinians and they were suspected, so they shot toward Israeli settlers because the open fire regulations are very relaxed.
Okay, I don't know if I understood well, but do you think it's part of a strategy, or is part of like the total freedom to do anything of the soldiers?
I don't think that these are the behavior of individual soldiers. It's part of the strategy of the Israeli army, and it's supported by the Israeli military, because if it's not part of the strategy of the Israeli army, those soldiers who are committing wrongdoing will be held to account, but none of them was held to account. So it's part of the strategy of the Israeli army to deter Palestinian people from resisting the Israeli occupation. So Israel is using its heavy hand against any action from Palestinian people. So arresting children, practicing ill treatment and torture against them. It's part of the whole strategy to suppress and control people who are living under the Israeli occupation. And a few days ago, Ben-Gvir was bragging that the amount of resistance in Palestinian communities is less because they are afraid of my presence, because the situation in the Israeli prisons after Ben-Gvir become the minister of internal security were deteriorated. So now he is bragging that because of the situation inside the inside my prisons, Palestinians do not dare to resist or to resist the Israelis.
Primero que nada, buenas tardes, muchas gracias por estar aquí y por darnos este espacio para comunicarnos. Hemos observado cómo la comunidad internacional no ha intervenido de manera activa en la Franja de Gaza, aunque lo que está pasando haya sido catalogado ya como genocidio. Pero con respecto a los niños, entendiendo que existe una protección especial hacia ellos por el derecho internacional y las organizaciones internacionales, me gustaría preguntarle ¿qué es concretamente lo que impide la intervención de la comunidad internacional para la protección de menores? Muchas gracias.
In theory, there should not be anything that prevents the international community from protecting children anywhere, not just in Palestine, but I believe that all civilians should be protected, regardless whether they are children or not children. But the international community, I think, the behavior of the international community was the international community was complicit of what's going against the Palestinian people, because at the beginning of the Israeli genocide in October 2023, there was full political, diplomatic, military support for Israel, and this support continued. And without the support of the international community, Israel will not be able to do what it did against Palestinian people. So just because of the complicity of the international community and the inaction of the international community, Israel commit all these atrocities and the crime and genocide against Palestinian people. So now the whole principles of international human rights law and humanitarian law are at the stake at the time being, not because just of what's happening against Palestinian people, but in general, because people now tend to not believe of international law, because, for example, even who is trying to raise their voice against the Israeli genocide and against the Israeli crimes, they are sanctioned by Israel and by the United States. Let's speak about Albanese, despite the fact that she is a special rapporteur for the occupied Palestinian territories, but she was sanctioned by the Americans. Many of the judges and the prosecutors of the International Criminal Law Court were sanctioned because they tried to do their job. So I think as long as the international community is paralyzed, Israel will continue its aggression, genocide against Palestinian people.
And just I would like to say thank you for speaking up about Palestine, especially you will come back to Palestine. I think I know how it's dangerous to speak about Israel and come back to Palestine. That's why just I would like to say thank you so much.
Thank you a lot.
Hola, bueno, muchas gracias también de mi parte por toda la información que has compartido. No sabía muy bien si hacer preguntas, si tenía sentido hacer una pregunta sobre... Yo estaba pensando como en la reparación, ¿no? En la reparación de la infancia, y digo, bueno, ¿cómo te puedes plantear una reparación si todavía la situación traumática o la situación que están viviendo no ha parado, por mucho que se haya hablado de un alto al fuego, al final siguen viviendo la situación que viven. Entonces, lo que sí quería preguntarte es si tú conoces, si se sabe o se conoce que existan iniciativas de cómo se les puede estar explicando a la infancia lo que está ocurriendo en Palestina o en Gaza, si existen iniciativas sobre mecanismos de autodefensa para la infancia, de cómo pueden proceder si son detenidos. Bueno, eso, si existen iniciativas dentro de Palestina sobre estas cuestiones. Gracias.
And I think that the sense of Palestinian children from Gaza, that we as adults, we betrayed them. We were unable to protect them because they were thinking that we as adults will be able to protect them. The international community will be able to protect them. So they received the message that nobody is able to convey them. And to some extent, they were, or as an organization, our role was to advocate for peace, tolerance, and all these values, human rights among children, because we believe that these are the principles that everybody should raise on and practice in his or her daily life. But Palestinian children from Gaza receive the message that these principles are nonsense, because the international community during the last 60 years or more put so much effort in order to set these principles and values, but still there is a problem in relation to the implementation of these principles, and the international community is impotent to implement these principles and to protect Palestinian children. And Palestinian children receive the message that the international community is unable to protect them, and adults also are unable to protect them. So now I think that we spoke about the 20,000 Palestinian children who were killed, but the situation is more complicated, because for all Palestinian children who live through this nightmare, the psychological implication of this experience will last for a very long period. So maybe during the last 2 years, they were struggling in order to stay alive, but in the future, the psychological impact of the experiences that they lived through will appear.
Bueno, ya vamos a acabar, pero yo tengo una última pregunta súper rápida. Bueno, este tema del sistema legal militar que se aplica solo a la población palestina y el sistema legal civil que se aplica a la población israelí. Bueno, para empezar, me parece que hay personas que todavía dicen que no hay apartheid como en Sudáfrica, y me parece como muy fuerte. Pero bueno, la pregunta rápida era, ¿desde cuándo existen y se aplican estos dos sistemas?
Is it okay now? The Israeli military, Israel established its military legal system since its occupation to the Palestinian occupied territories in the year 1967. So since the beginning of the Israeli occupation to the Palestinian areas, they established the military court, and Israel argue that military court or the occupying power, they have the right to establish military courts, but so they justify that establishing military courts as part of the international humanitarian law, but when it comes to settlement and settlers, they forget about international humanitarian law, despite the fact that settlements are war crimes under international humanitarian law. So they pick and choose whatever they want from the international humanitarian law. You're welcome.
¿Hay alguna otra pregunta? No. Vale, entonces, bueno, cerramos aquí. Muchísimas gracias por tu testimonio, por bueno, contarnos todo esto, aunque sea muy duro de escuchar, porque yo creo, bueno, que aquí, aunque nos hayamos acostumbrado desafortunadamente a muchas imágenes terribles de Palestina, es verdad que luego lo vuelves a escuchar, bueno, por lo menos yo desde alguien que viene de allí, y ha habido algunos momentos, no solo hoy, también en estos días que hemos estado, que me estaba a punto de llorar, la verdad. Entonces, bueno, muchísimas gracias, que sé que la idea no es esa, pero que salgamos de aquí sin esperanza. Pero bueno, muchísimas gracias por compartir y nada, gracias a vosotras por estar aquí. Y bueno, las que estáis en el curso nos vemos el 26 y las que estáis en el máster, pues la idea era que participéis también en la sesión del 5 de marzo, que esa sí va a ser toda presencial, así que el formato va a ser un poco diferente. Y bueno, pues nada, aquí cerramos. Gracias.
Thank you all.